Welcome to Permission to Shine, the space where high-achieving women like you come to peel back the layers, overcome what's been holding you back, and rise into your most authentic, powerful self. I'm your host, Sharice Bisram, inner power activation leader and intuitive healer, and a woman who knows what it means to look like she's thriving on the outside, also while feeling disconnected on the inside. This podcast is here to remind you, you didn't come here to just perform, you came here to lead with your soul. Your obstacles, they're invitations to expand. And your power, it was never outside of you. It's been waiting within you all along. Each week we'll dive into honest conversations, healing insight and soul-led strategies to help you stop self-sabotaging, reclaim your light and lead your life, your business and your relationships from deep-rooted truth. So if you're ready to rise with grace, softness and fire, you're in the right place. Let's get into it. Hello, my loves. I wanted to talk about something that's really important that is fed throughout my whole work. And it was such an important reminder yesterday night when I went to watch Wicked, part 2, and it just all tied in together. One, everything I've been experiencing with this Scorpio new moon energy, and now we've come out of Scorpio season, we're into Sagittarius season. If obviously you understand the astrology, if you don't and you're listening whenever, then it doesn't matter. But what's important right now is that Scorpio season, and this could even be your inner winter whenever you're listening to it, it forces us to go inwards and to, descend into the underworld of ourselves. So whether that's our subconscious mind, whether it's our thoughts that we try to run from. So it could be jealousy, it could be comparison, it could be just that lack of self-trust. All of those things are the shadow self, right? It could even be, how we talk to ourselves when no one's around, their inner voice, right? That's all the Scorpio underworld things and feelings that we all have, right? But Scorpio season in itself really asks us to look at it, and especially the winter season, that hibernation. And I think that is very contradictory, the way that we live as humans, because the seasons really teach us to go inwards, right? The winter, the decline, coming into hibernation, rest. That's what nature is telling us. But we gear up the party mode. We get more social. We do more things with people. And this is why it feels so conflicting, because actually our inner world is saying, I need rest. I need harmony. I need peace. But the outer world is saying, come out, be social, do lots of things, right? And this is why we feel torn a lot of the time, and especially if you are someone that either runs a business or works really hard and all the things, there's a conflict here between, do I rest more, do I listen to myself and what I actually need, or do I just show up because that's what people want from me? And it ties in so beautifully with Wicked, because I'm not going to give too much away, because if you haven't seen it, I don't want to ruin it for you, but I just think that it's just great to have the examples, because when I've seen Wicked in the theatre twice. I'm a big fan. And I felt that the film has a really beautiful way of combining this together. Now, obviously, when you take like a play or a book and you make it a film, there are parts that go missing, right, as we know. But essentially, the part that I really want to hone in on is Glinda the Good Witch. Now, there's a moment in the second film where she is backed into a corner and someone says to her, just do what you're good at and put on a brave face and tell everyone that everything's fine and just be good. And I thought, how many times in our lives as women have we just swallowed the pill and just been like, yeah, okay, I'm fine, everything's fine, and gone about our merry way, and or shown up for people or people please the situation because we thought that was what we should do to be a good person, a good girl, be seen as what we think people want us to see. Whereas Elphaba, for example, she was never looked upon as, I guess, this vision of beauty. She was never really seen as good. Everyone judged her from the way she looked, let alone the fact that she was outspoken. And there's just always that. I think for me as well, I really relate to Elphaba because my whole life I felt like I didn't fit in, you know? And it's crazy now because I think that is an inner story, right? And I'm not green, but I grew up in an area that wasn't culturally diverse. So maybe in a way I kind of was, you know? But it's interesting because I think even when Elphaba was doing the right thing, she was always seen as being wrong for it because it wasn't what met the standard and expectation of the rest of the world. And this is the part that I really want to hone in on because I think that, especially for women that are in industries that are male dominated, it feels like you either have to be a man in terms of like driven, focused, motivated, goal getter and achiever, high achiever, perfectionist, right? You either have to be that or you surrender fully the other way and you just you're the one that they see as not very intelligent, you make the teas, you know, like all of that. And that's if you want to be either of those, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. But what I do want to hone in on more than anything is that when you are acting in alignment and in integrity with what it is you truly believe in for you, and you're taking action based on what feels like the right choices that you want to make, that's moving from a place of inner safety. When we are doing things that are out of alignment with who we truly are internally, this is why we are feeling immense burnout. This is why we are crying ourselves to sleep at night. And some of you aren't crying yourself to sleep at night, right? Some of you might just feel discomfort or emptiness or something doesn't feel quite right, but I can't put my finger on it. I have a little niggly pain here and I don't know where that's come from and it's consistent and I can't seem to get rid of it. Or you get all of the accolades, all the achievements, all the beautiful, wonderful things, and it just feels like, yeah, yeah, I know that one. That is all signs that you are not moving from a place of one, inner safety, but two, inner alignment with who you are supposed to be, right? And who you are supposed to be is who you were and who you are underneath all of the conditioning, the people pleasing, the shape shifting, and the changing that you've done to be what you think people want you to be. And that for me really is the Glinda example because she knew at certain points that what she was doing wasn't right, but she was convincing herself and gaslighting herself that that was the right choice to make for the greater good. And really, it was the easiest option to just pretend that everything was amazing and shiny and beautiful. You know, it's that put a brave face on and smile through it all and like everything's okay, it's fine. You know, like I've watched that so many times with women in my life over and over again. You know, there could be like a blazing family row, and then the women in the family are like, yeah, yeah, it's fine, just leave them, let them get on with it. We're going to focus on this, you know, like, and we're trying to defer people from seeing the pain and the hardship and the difficulty, even down to family dynamics and even my family. Like, you know, it's only because I started talking about mental health and well-being so much and started owning my stuff that my family now have these open conversations. And some people in the family still don't, right? But when we start to take the veil off of perfectionism and it all being figured out, that's when it gives people the permission to do the same thing. But all the time we don't want to talk about emotions or we don't want to talk about our feelings, we are part of the problem. We are doing the Glinda the Good Witch thing, right? And they don't even call it in the musical. They call her the Good Witch. They don't call her that in the film. It's just Glinda the Good. Um, but still, same, right? It's that I will smile through all of the pain and all of the hardship. And I'll keep showing up. Now, part of that is correct, right? You have to keep moving forward. But you're also allowed to sit in stuff when it's hard and it's a bit crap. And I've actually found that as a byproduct of me being open like that, my friends now feel like they can come forward and say, yeah, today's just been a bit of a bad day. Or sorry, guys, I just need to go inwards for a little while because I'm just trying to figure some stuff out. You know, it's not about pouring your heart and soul out into everything you do. And I think this is the part where people get confused with vulnerability. They're almost now projecting all of their internal stuff outwardly and expecting to be validated by it. And it's the same thing, right? It's you think that people want to see your vulnerability. So then you overshare, you end up feeling uncomfortable, and other people feel uncomfortable as a byproduct of you feeling uncomfortable. So, what is the antidote to all of this stuff? Inner safety. Inner safety. And I know that I throw that word around a lot, but a real prime example of this is that this Scorpio new moon had cut through some hard things that have come around like this year. And if you've been listening to my podcast, you'll know that this 9 year, 2025, has been very turbulent for me. I met old wounds and family dynamics and financial situations. And when I've been speaking to women that I really deeply align with, they have also been in a similar situation. And it's all part of this initiation that we go through. 9 year, we're shedding the layers, right? To come forward into the 1 year, which is the year of the horse, is going to be forward motion. So I know for a fact that I feel more clear today than I have felt in the last 9 months or however long it's been. So I know when I move into January, I'm already going to start to move forward and I'm starting to feel that shift. But the one thing that made this very clear for me this morning is when I woke up, I started to journal. And in fact, it was probably even last night when I got in from the cinema and I was thinking about how my whole life I've had this constant dialogue in my head of negative thoughts. And I think I might have mentioned it on another episode actually. And it's either judgment, it's what I need to keep doing more of, what I need to push through, that high achieving perfectionism voice in my head telling me there was more I needed to do, or I needed to be better, or it wasn't enough. And I noticed yesterday and I've noticed it over the last few days, in fact, that it's gone completely still again. Now, I got to a point where that voice had been so quiet, but every now and again it would pipe up. And especially in this 9 year, I felt that come forward again. And then over the last few days, especially around this Scorpio new moon, and like I said, Scorpio cut through all of the stuff. We've had the eclipse portals and all that stuff that's happened towards the end of the year. And it just felt like a completely new clean sheet of paper and my mind feels clear. This is the first time this year that I felt this clear. And that was a reminder for me that all of what I take my clients through, all of what I speak about is to get to this pathway and this point. And the beautiful thing about doing the work and having the tools is that you know what you need to do in order to keep bringing that clarity forward for yourself. And it's a continuation, right? You're never just going to arrive here and that's the end. You're going to keep moving through it over and over again. But what's beautiful is in the cycle that I've just been through, it feels like I finally met the point where I'm like, ah, okay. And I didn't even realize that I'd got there until I'd watched the film and I was thinking about how there's parts where Elphaba is like questioning herself and, like thinking, is she doing the right thing because it feels so hard? But she's moving from her heart space. And when you move from your heart space, that's you in alignment with your integrity because it means something. And I think that this is a part that we get so deterred from in the human life. It's like I said, Glinda's looking for that validation, that approval from other people. But how does that make you feel? Because like I said, for me, when I was a professional dancer and, getting all these really great jobs and all these things coming forward and it felt empty, that was an inner sign. That was a sign from my inner world to say to me, you've moved so like tunnel vision your whole life to achieve this stuff that you are now here and it's hollow. And that's no one else's responsibility but yours. And that was very confronting. That was 2019. And then lo and behold, the pandemic hits and I have to do the work. But I'm so grateful for that reminder and that wake up because I remember writing in my journal in 2020 that I just wanted to feel confident in myself. And I just wanted to feel certain of who I am and my purpose and why I'm here. And let me tell you, I've never been clearer in that. And that was the first thing that started to come forward for me. I think in 2022, after I started to move through the real heaviness of the healing work that I was doing with my inner child and all those things, it started to become really clear that I felt confident for the first time, really truly confident in who I am and what I stand for. And that was like the most beautiful thing in the world. And every time I think about these big goals and things that I'm manifesting forward, whether it's business, whether it's like life goals and achievements, all these things, I think it all comes down to the most important thing is that I have mastered my inner world. And I literally wrote in my journal last night. Now, this is going to sound quite obnoxious to anyone that doesn't really know me or this is the first time you're listening, but I literally wrote down that I am a masterpiece because no matter what life threw at me, like if you think about a blank canvas and like you've had childhood experiences and like hardship and trauma and struggle and having to build resilience, for me it feels like all of these like dark colors are like being thrown at the canvas, and then you add in this layer of performance and proving and all of these things, and it's like these layers of paint that are stacking up, stacking up, stacking up, stacking up, and then it almost feels like I've gotten a just a clear or even like a pure even paint remover, and I've got that on a sponge, and I've just come down the middle of it and create a whole pathway of clarity for myself out of the chaos. And maybe it looks like a road because I've moved my way through it. And that for me is the masterpiece because it's not in spite of the hardship, but because of it, you know? And I think that this is why for me, I really believe in this work, and I want every single woman, especially the women that have fought their way through everything they've been through in their life, especially the women that have felt like they had to perform to get to where they are right now and not embody who they truly are. The women that have been in their masculine doing energy for their whole lives, and their body and their nervous system is crying to be seen for softness, for ease, for flow. This is why I teach this work because I know what it feels like, and I do not want any other woman to keep moving their way through life like this because honestly, the heaviness and the inner turmoil, like I think I've said to you all before, like if you listen to time, is that I used to have a constant knot in my root. Um, so this is like your almost like just above your belly button. Maybe that's solar plexus actually. But yeah, there was a constant knot there in my stomach. And I just assumed, I mean, it was IBS, but I just thought, oh, it's just a stomach thing that I have. But that was emotional turmoil. And even down to like my liver stagnation and how, like, I think I've said to you all before that I have breakouts in my skin now as a byproduct of my liver trying to detoxify. That liver stagnation, the sluggy liver, comes from not being able to express my emotions. So 28 years, I kept all of my emotions stuck and still and trapped in my body. I wasn't releasing them out. So my liver stored all of my emotions. That's also because of the childhood trauma and having the over flooding of cortisol through my body constantly. I was always in a state of fight or flight, fight most of the time, probably all of the time actually, my whole life, the 28 years. So now doing this actual mental healing has had a knock-on physical effect in my body. And then I'm supporting that by actually working with my body to ensure that we are releasing all of the time. This is where, for me, the somatic movement comes in. This is why, for me, I'm so conscious about what I put into my body, like what I'm drinking, what I'm eating. Like, I am literally a fish. I will drink so much water and green teas and all of these things because I believe in the health. Now, I'm not saying that I don't have enjoyable things. Like I love a coffee. I will have a nice coffee a day. But I don't drink coffee all day unless it's a really long day and I need to get myself through. But most of the time, I trust my own body. I'm eating well. I'm vegetarian. I mean, not that that means anything, but just again, I'm just conscious about what I put into my body. So I'm supporting the health and healing of my body internally and also physically by what I put in. And then moving my body all of the time. Like I've been a dancer for my whole life pretty much. So to stop dancing and moving completely would be actually very what's the right word to say here? Degenerate. It wouldn't support my body. I would end up probably either one putting on lots of weight or two just like getting really stiff and getting ailments and pains and aches and actual maybe physical problems. So I move my body all of the time as well. And then constantly working with my mind, when it feels right to. And what I want to say is that I've given you lots of examples there of different things. It's not all at once. And I know as a high achieving, high performing, overachieving woman, You're like, right, I need to do this, 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 and this. That's not what I'm asking you to do. And this is exactly with my work. What I want to make really clear, it's not about giving you more to do. It's about looking at what you are doing right now and how can we evolve those things to support you. That's all it is. I'm not asking you to put more on your plate. I'm actually saying what is already on your plate and what can we shift slightly that is going to give you more time, more clarity, and more softness. Because that really is all it comes down to, right? Is that we have been in this yeah, push and force for so long that your nervous system is absolutely out of whack. And this is what happens when, like, as in when you heal this, what starts to happen is when you are making choices that are more from a feminine energy space, meaning that you're moving out of what feels right, what feels true, there is going to be some obviously backlash in your world. You're going to be thinking, oh God, is that right? Should I do that? But when you start to do all this other stuff, the nervous system work, the somatic work, the what you're eating, what you're drinking to support yourself, the inner safety in you is going to allow you to really lean all the way into that. Because what can happen is you can listen to people telling you about being in your feminine, being in your masculine, or maybe doing the odd somatic work, or maybe doing the odd bit of mindset work. But because you haven't created a safe foundation, it just feels like I'm going to make this one choice that feels feminine. And then all of a sudden your nervous system goes crazy and your mindset goes crazy because you're like, this doesn't feel right, abort mission. But remember that your body, your mind, it keeps the score. So what you've done for the last 30, 40, 50, 60 years is your default setting. So when you start to choose a new pathway, it's going to feel weird, right? How many of us get in the car, we do the same route every day to wherever we're going? Say it's the gym, for example, same route every day. When there is a roadblock and you can't go that way, you have to start thinking about what's the next way I'm going to go. And then by default, because you keep repeating that, you'll have a new route you go down. And then you might even forget the old way existed, or you might go the old way and then remember and have to change direction. It's the same with your mindset, with your inner world. When you create a new pathway for yourself, it's just that building it up and reminding yourself. And I guess some people would say inner resilience. And it is in a way, but I feel certain words have quite a masculine connotation towards them, and I don't want resilience to be the word that you hone in on and you're like, yes, I'm resilient because of this. You are resilient. Everything you are is resilient because you've made it this far in your life. And I don't think we should pedestal certain words. So that's why I kind of want to take that away because I know for myself that I was so masculine in nature that the doing words made me feel validated, ambitious, all of those they kind of had this masculine flair, right? That's why I like to use the word devotion instead of discipline, because discipline for me sounds very masculine and to the point. And even consistency. I mean, consistency, I feel like kind of is in the middle, really, but devotion feels like this, yeah, this trust in yourself. And because you want to grow, evolve, and better yourself, you are devoted to the steps that are supporting you mentally, physically, and spiritually. So, what I would love for you to do first, above everything, is, and you can write this down as well. I love a little journal prompt, don't I? So, I would write down a list of good girl traits that you are still doing. So, write a list, good on the top, good girl traits, and then write all of the things you are doing that you feel like people want to see from you. So that could be that you are doing the extra hour at work. It could mean that you are doing a full day at work. You come in, you cook dinner for everyone, and you're making several meals. It could be that you are, you know, going above and beyond for friends and family in your life when you're not getting the same return. It could be that you said yes to attending an event and actually you don't want to go, like write down all of the things that you've been doing that you think will make you good or have made you be the good person. So many of my clients, every single one says to me about, oh yeah, I'm a great friend. I'm like, are you a great friend or are you useful to everyone? I'll say that again. Are you a good friend or are you just useful to everyone? Because a friend should be an exchange, right? It shouldn't be, I do this for you, you do that for me. It should be that energetically we both value each other and so we want to support each other. Not I'm a good friend because I always go to my friends' houses and I go and see them all the time, or I'm always the one to reach out, or I'm always the one to make plans. I'm always the one to plan everything. That's not being a good friend. That's actually being of service. Shouldn't have to be of service to your friends. It should be two ways, right? Food for thought there for you. And then what can you start to adapt from there? Like, what is taking up time that you don't want to do anymore? And saying no feels scary. I do get it. And actually, some of you might be great at saying no to work situations, to certain people in your life. But I can guarantee you there's still some no's you need to say that you're not saying yet. Because when you start to build that inner trust, that is when you are listening to your inner self say, I don't want to do that. So if you know you've got plans and you've got things you need to do, um, or that you've said you would do for other people that you don't want to attend to, you can just say, I don't really want to do that. Now, there is a sort of a catch here, is that when, well, I'd say catch 22 because you might not want to let someone down. That's okay. None of us want to let anyone down. But at the same time, if it's sacrificing something for you, then that's when it needs to be a no. There's a difference between something you don't really want to do, but it's actually not infringing you in any way. It's just not your thing, right? That's a very different situation. And you might think, don't really want to do this, but there's not actually an alternative. So I might as well just do it, A bit like the days where you don't really want to go to the gym and you weigh out like, oh, I can't really be bothered to go to the gym. But you do know that when you go to the gym, you're going to feel better when you come out. That is one of those times where you have to just do it anyway. The time where it's not is if you have had a really busy week. You've been back to back, you've had a lot on your plate, and then your friend is like, come on, let's go out for a wine tonight. Now, it'd be lovely to go out for a wine tonight, but really, more than anything, you just want to get in the bath, you want to read a book, and you just want to just chill out. Yeah. In those situations there, that's when it's okay to say no and reschedule. Like when I say to people, say no, if it's people you love and care about, you can say no, how about we do this instead? Or instead of you going out for a wine with that friend, it's saying to them, do you know what? I really need a day in, like, I need to come home and I need to just decompress. You're more than welcome to join me here for a glass of wine, or how about we do it next week, this day? And then that way you're given an alternative because you don't want to be, well, I was going to say you don't want to make an issue with you and that other person unless you know that that person only wants you for certain things. It's a very complex thing, isn't it? And I'm trying to be devil's advocate and give you both sides to it because I don't want you to ever think that I'm telling you, oh, Cherise said I needed to do it this way and that's it. It's not that. Everything has its own sort of for and against in the argument or the situation. But what I want you to do is start building up clarity in what it is you actually want. And when you have that baseline of what it is you want and need, what is beneficial from you and what is not, that's when you start to make choices that are in alignment with you. That's when you start to move from integrity. For example, if you're in the online space or you're in a business setting or you're even in a work setting, when you're I mean, a good example of this is maybe like the online what's it called? Marketing. Um, like the Juice Plus thing. Now, nothing wrong with Juice Plus. If that's what you want to do, fine. But I feel like there's, for us as humans that are outside of that industry, that sometimes if someone is approaching you and they are just someone you went to school with years ago and just randomly DMs you and is like, hey, I'm doing this thing now. I thought of you. Love to talk more about it. You're going to be like, what? What? That when I get DMs about weight loss or, lose so and so pounds in so and so days, I'm like, you clearly haven't looked at my profile to see that I've been a professional dancer all that time and that actually fitness is a really big part of just who I am as a person. So I don't need your dieting thing, right? Now, that is already a bit of a red flag because you shouldn't really approach anyone and say, do you want to lose weight or whatever, right? A really integral way to do it would be to message someone that you went to school with and sort of approach them and said, hey, gosh, we haven't seen each other in so long. You'd never guess, obviously, the life that I've had, the journey. Maybe you want to talk about your body. Like, I put my body through so much over the last few years, and actually, I found Juice Plus, and it really just transformed the way I looked at myself. And I managed to find a way to shift some excess weight that I wasn't comfortable with, and now I feel the best I've ever felt in my body. And I just wanted to share it with you because I know we haven't spoken in a long time, but I just think as women, we need that reminder that it's okay to feel good. How much of a difference does that make, right? When you're moving in integrity to just saying something for the sake of it, you know? And if anyone ever gets a DM from me, it's because I generally feel like there's a connection here, or I want to have a conversation, or whatever it is. I don't believe in moving from a space that's out of alignment. Like I don't have, and then this is a very that maybe business people are going to be like, but I don't have this KPI thing that corporate things do because my work comes from service. So whenever I'm speaking to anyone, it's from a place of like, I saw that you were going for a really hard time. Do you want to talk about it? You know, like, and that's just humanness. That's not even a business thing. That's like, we need to get so clear and normalize the fact that sometimes things are a bit shit, you know? And I just want to make sure that that's clear because like I said, that there's this divide right now in the industry where people think that talking about their bad days makes them a really integral person, but it just makes you human, you know? And that's the part. And I think that when we're wrapped up in that Glinda the Good Witch energy and we just want to showcase the good stuff, that also is toxic. But also talking about the bad days just because that's toxic too, you know? And when I say toxic, I don't mean as in like you're wrong for it, but what I mean is there's nothing more than that. It's vanity metrics. We're saying something to get a result. Whereas if you are speaking in a place of real deep trust and knowing that I've moved through this hard thing, my life, for example. You know, when I tell people my story of like, you know, growing up in a volatile household, being a woman of color in an area that wasn't culturally diverse, losing 11 members of my family when I was between the ages of 12 to 17, let alone growing up with an addict parent. Like, there's so many layers of things that I've moved through, and more than that. So when I start to talk about finding my true trust and inner safety, that's something that my inner child could never comprehend. And I get emotional when I say it because I can't stress to you how much this clarity feels. And it was really wonderful today. I was like just scrolling on Instagram, and there was a someone I follow that looks at the Akashic Records. Now, if you don't know what the Akashic Records is, it's basically like your soul's library. So when I go into like a meditation or a visualization, sometimes we go through the Akashic Records, sometimes we don't. I tend to do this with clients more than I do in my free meditations because it's actually a very sacred space. So it feels like more in alignment to take my clients individually there, and it's a library of your life. So basically, your life, but also access to like archives of information. It's very woo-woo. I know if you're listening to this for the first time thinking, what the hell? But basically, yeah, there's a whole universe of records of like experiences, things, right? This person works with the Akashic Records, and he also works with AI. So he asked AI, in the Akashic Records, what is the best way to heal your inner child? And the things that they were saying are the practices that I do with my clients. And I thought, no one really taught me how to do this. This has all been me intuitively figuring it out for myself and then sharing my practices with my clients and also backing it up by research. You know, like for example, when I did my master's degree in the lockdown, I specialised in female empowerment. And so I was looking at how dance had acted in an intervention for young people. And that's actually when I found out that I had adverse childhood experiences. I scored 8 out of 10 on the ACEs, if anyone knows what that is. But it was that navigation of, you know, the research and, you know, now scientific findings and things like that. But I've led from the feminine first with the healing, right? I've gone with what felt right and trusting that pathway and that pattern. And don't get me wrong, before I realized that I could channel and go into these meditations and guide them, I was receiving meditations. I was receiving energy healing. I was receiving breath work, like all of these things that, I mean, I don't teach breath work, but I use the breath obviously in everything I do. And using being guided myself, figuring it out what works for me and what didn't, then taking myself through that journey further to then now teach it is the journey. And if you're into human design, I'm a 5-1, which basically means I have to learn first and then teach. That is actually my thing. So yeah, I just wanted to share that with you because this is why I do everything I do. It's not just oh, this is a shiny thing or this is what people want from me. Actually, people probably want me to just keep being a performer because that's shiny and beautiful and lovely. But actually, the truth is, I get to be all of it. And I really want to showcase to you more than anything that you don't have to be what people want you to be. And even though you may have been this shiny version of yourself, this good, quote unquote, good version of yourself your whole life, that if that has never felt safe to you, if you've never felt truly connected to every part of you, and parts of you are fragmented, I'm speaking to you when I say the foundation that you need to create for yourself is inner safety. And it's not through doing more, it's through reclaiming those parts of yourself. And that is exactly what I teach and move through with my clients. Now, I'm going to be hosting an in-person event in January, the 22nd of January. It's going to be in London, and it's going to show all of this work in real time. It's one day we're going to really get to the roots of who you are so you can walk away feeling deeply connected, trusting yourself more, and have a plan on how you're going to move forward for the rest of the year. Because as I said, going into this one year, clarity is going to be the thing that helps you to accelerate and move to the pathway, through the pathway that you want to achieve your goals, dreams, and aspirations by, but from a place of inner safety and inner trust and softness. No force. The universe is going to move you anyway. So isn't it better to trust yourself fully in that journey and that opening, so then your pathway's clear? Just like I was talking about that masterpiece of self, that artwork, clearing the pathway through. And that's how we do. We're all of it. We are the child, the teen, the 20, the 30, the 40, the 50, the 60, the 70, the 80-year-old version of ourselves all at once. This is quantum. We live in all of this reality. I could go down a rabbit hole in that. But more than anything, going into 2026, I just want you to feel wholeness. And you so deserve that. It's all there already. So I'd love to see you there. January 2022, that's interesting. 22nd, 2026. And it's going to be in London. The details will be on the wait list. So I'm going to pop the link in the show description. And if you're interested, just, sign up then. If you are like, no, I 100% want to be there, then I'm going to create a link this week for women that are like, I just need to sign up, and then it's in the diary and it's done. That will be also available for you. When you click on the link for the waitlist, it'll be the same one, basically. So, yes, I'm sending you so much love and light. And remember, sometimes it's not about how good it looks. It's about how good you feel. And if it means that you look like the villain in someone else's story, let them think it. It's your life. It's about how you feel more than anything. And you deserve to feel safe. Lots of love.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode. Please do comment as well what you feel like you've learned from the episode. It's really helpful. And if you can rate it on a 5-star review, I would be so grateful, because that just means that more women get access to these teachings within the episodes. And also, who would you like to be on the show? DM me and let me know. And please do share with a friend that you know needs to hear what's in this episode today. I would also love to invite you into my Inner Power portal, because that is the space where all of my meditations are, all of my activations, and I host 2 live sessions per month that do include movement and my spiritual downloads and all the beautiful things that I offer all in one space. Plus you get to ask me any questions that you have. So I'd love to see you in there. Have a great week.